We ask you to just guide us and direct us as we make decisions. That's what's best for our district in Marlboro County. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Will all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to call the meeting to order.
Mr. Chair, I move we call this meeting to order.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, call the meeting to order. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Marlboro County Board of Education meeting is now called to order. The notification went out to the news media. Any news media present? Okay, you're all welcome. At the time, I need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as printed.
A motion to approve the agenda as printed. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. The agenda is now approved. Public session, points of celebration. We have District Character Education Student of the Month.
Good evening, Chairman, Coachman, board members, Dr. Thorson. It gives me great pleasure in introducing our elementary level character student of the month. This month, we are proud to recognize Malik Heslop for exemplifying the character trait of citizenship within his classroom. Malik consistently demonstrates what it means to be a responsible and respectful member of our school community. He takes pride in following classroom rules, showing respect to both teachers and classmates, and contributing positive to our daily routines. His genuine kindness and willingness to help others make him a shining example of what a good citizen looks like at school. One moment that truly reflects Malik's strong sense of citizenship occurred during a recent group activity. When one of his classmates was struggling to stay organized and complete the task, Malik kindly offered his help without any hesitation. He took time to explain the directions clearly and patiently, encouraging his classmate to keep trying. Throughout the activity, he made sure everyone in his group participated and worked together as a team. His leadership and compassion helped the group finish their project successfully while making sure everyone felt valued and included. Beyond group work, Malik shows his citizenship in many small but meaningful ways every day. He is always the first to volunteer to help to clean up after activities, hold the door for others, or lend a pencil to a friend in need. He listens carefully during lessons, speaks politely, and reminds others to stay on task in a respectful way. Malik understands that being a good citizen means caring about others, making responsible choices, and doing his best to make our classroom a better place for everyone. We are proud of Malik for the wonderful role model for his positive role model to his classmates. His positive attitude, helpful spirit, and sense of responsibility makes a lasting impact in our school community. And we want to say congratulations to Malik. Malik is a second grade student at Bennettsville Primary, and I'm going to ask him as well as his family if they would please come forward at this time. Malik. Again, we say congratulations, and if we can get our board members over to the
Good afternoon, Chairman Coachman, board members, and Dr. Thorsland. It is with great honor that I stand before you today to represent McCall Elementary Middle School and to speak about this student who has earned the Citizenship Character Education Award this afternoon. And this is what her teachers had to say about her. Being an active and responsible citizen within Marlboro County School District can be shown through a student's willingness to participate in everything our district offers for students. Students who contribute to the common good of their peers in the middle school are fortunately not rare here. While we have many candidates who show outstanding citizenship, this student not only shows it on a school grounds, but also at the high school, where she is a member of the award-winning Marlboro County High School Marching Band. Miss Chloe Oxendine, an eighth grader at McCall Elementary Middle School, is an outstanding citizenship student. In school can be proven through her ability to follow every school expectation. She is a proactive member of all of her classes and goes above and beyond with the quality of her work. Even this year, while she was in the gym, she was becoming very hard on herself during a game where she felt that she had let her team down. Coach Mason explained to her that the results of the game were not solely her fault. Chloe's empathetic heart allowed the others to see the value in teamwork. Being a member of the high school marching band as an eighth grade student presents its own challenges with practices, performances, daily routines, and or weekends. A student could easily fall behind with her schoolwork. Chloe has learned to balance both her band life and school life, making her an excellent citizen for both high school and middle school students. Not only does she exhibit all these amazing qualities as a citizenship, but she also has earned straight A's for the first quarter. And when I say straight A's, I mean 99, 97 was her averages, and is on track to do that again for the second quarter. So without further ado, please help me honor and welcome Miss Chloe Oxendine. Oh, I also like to say her mom is one of the proud teachers here at Marlboro County High School as well.
All right. Congratulate both families and the students on their points of celebration. We now move into approval of the minutes for November 3rd, 2025 regular scheduled meeting and November 12th, 2025 special call meeting.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve November the 3rd, 2025 regular scheduled meeting and November the 12th special call meeting.
Okay. Motion to approve the meeting from November 3rd and November 12th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing any, all in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. And the minutes are unanimously approved. Okay. Now to the public comment section of our board meeting. We have Miss Kamaya Little. Did I pronounce that right? Sure. All right, Sinead. Come on up, baby. Shit. You come up to the podium, sweetheart. And Miss,
About my teacher, Miss Page. I'm just here to talk about her character and how she's a very good teacher and how she takes up for all of her students. And I feel like what happened wasn't very much fair because something happened to her, but nothing happened to the student at all. So I feel like something should have been done to the student as well. and I feel like she should have another chance to be with her students so other kids can have the same experience that we had.
Okay.
That's all.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Little. Thank you for your comments. Next public comments coming from Ms. Wybette Douglas.
Good afternoon to everybody in their respective place. I'm here. Everybody knows that I'm straight to the point. I don't have a favorite. I don't have a pick. But since we have a new change and things are going on, I believe, when someone represent a district, that they need to live in that district. We had a former um, guy here. We spoke on that, and we need to speak on other things that's going on that's not in the district. Just like I believe, if you represent a district, as I said before, your children need to be in that district. It takes away from other schools with your kids being here when your kids being there. If you live in another state, you need to be working in that state on the board. You don't need to take our money and go across lines, spend it there, and serve for our children. If it's not good enough for you all to be here in Marlboro County, it's not good enough at all. So I think that as a citizen, that we need proof showing each board member, so nobody won't say that we're being unfair, each board member residency. That accountability needs to be, if you live in another state, you need to work on that state, not here in Marlboro County, because you're not giving our children your all, your attention. And so I want you all to put that on your agenda, or do I need to put it in writing? But we need proof of everyone, where they reside. And I'm asking for that information to be put on the agenda. And as the board, for you all, you should want to know. We didn't turn a blind eye to Mr. Gaiman. It went so far that you all pulled up his bank statements, his mortgage, all of that. So I want to see that same energy come across this time. And I'm praying that you, as a board, that you all could come together and stop all the bickering and just do what's best for the kids, because they're in an uproar. We've had so many changes. It's like Wonder Woman going inside the phone booth and coming out. So I hope there's some stability here, and that the people that has given so many years to this school, that their jobs be considered and not just thrown out the pasture. Because I'm still trying to figure out, what is going on. So I thank you all for your time. And again, I look forward to hearing back. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Douglas, for your comments. Now, moving on to board business action. We have the second and final reading and revision of policy KF. That's community use of school facility, KFR. Community use of school facility, and KFE. School schedule of charges for use of school district property. And KFG, request for use of school district facilities. And all of those are second and final reading. I think we've had a chance to read those. And Dr. Thorson, he's going to give us a rundown on those policies.
Yes, Mr. Deese couldn't be with us tonight, and these policies are really just updating fee schedules so that the school district doesn't lose money on building rentals. And we were really losing money because the employee fees that we were charging to have an employee in the building when the rental was occurring were not adequate to cover that person's salary that we would incur. And the rental fees themselves have gone up a little bit as well, but they're still very, very reasonable for the spaces that people could rent. So I don't feel like there should be much controversy surrounding these policies. It's really just getting the schedule of fees current with the times and ensure that we're not losing money on rentals.
So what's that fee right now with the new policy, just for the public?
It depends on the space,
Mm-hmm.
but there is, you give me just a second to get there. Again, it's very, very reasonable,
Yes, it is.
but so we're looking at classrooms. Classroom would be $25 an hour. Auditorium, gym, cafeteria space, $50 an hour. We are taking away the option of renting our kitchen spaces. There's just too much equipment and too many safety concerns for us to allow outside agencies to come use our kitchen equipment. $30 for an athletic field per hour. If it's not one with lights, if it is an athletic field with lights, it would be $100 an hour. But the electrical charge for turning on the lights in a stadium is pretty significant because it's demand-based fees typically, and that can affect our electricity bill. So again, just getting these charges kind of up to date and make sure we're not losing money on rentals.
Will those charges be for use of athletic fields? Will work with the Marlboro County Parks and Recreation? Would that be something separate?
Yeah, if it's a government entity, I think we do some in-kind.
Gotcha.
So with the rec programs that are municipalities or county-sponsored rec programs, we would
partner with them.
We would work with them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anybody got any other questions on that policy?
I do. And I forgot to ask this last time. So under service fees, where it says district representative, and is that fee going to a certain pot for us to utilize within maintenance, or what is the?
No, the fee to rent the space would come to the district for use to help maintain the facilities and things like that. The employee fee, whenever we rent a space in the building, we have a school district employee there during that rental. So if a group wanted to rent an auditorium, we would have a school district employee there, and most of the time that employee is going to be getting overtime at that point because they work 40 hours a week for us. So if they come back in the evening or on the weekend to work, covering a group, it's going to be overtime. So that fee, really, we're collecting it from the organization, and then we're just turning around and paying it to that employee who's here on duty. So we really don't we don't know the exact penny every time, but that's not a money maker. That's just covering our employee fees because we have to have an employee here during the rental.
And just clarification, so in that fee, a district representative would be present for the rental, and then instead of the employee getting it, it will go into a pot for the district.
The rental itself, so the $50 an hour for the space, or the $25 an hour, whatever the space is, that would go into a pot that the school district could then use. But the employee fee is really just going right back out to that person who's covering the event for us. We always want someone here that would have keys to the building, that would be able to answer questions. We don't think it would ever be good practice to rent a space and then not have a school district employee here while the rental's going on.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm clear about what I'm asking too. So in the case of this district representative where it was custodian and that fee of $50 per hour, you said the designated district representative would get the $50?
So there would be actually two fees that the rental agency would pay. They would pay the $50 an hour for the space. So if they rented a gymnasium for 2 hours, that would be $100. But then they would also have to pay the employee fee. So there are two different fees. The $50 an hour for the gym would come to the school district, and we could use that for anything we decided to. Most likely it would be for maintenance and upkeep of the facilities because there is wear and tear on a facility when outside groups use it. But the second fee, the employee fee, which I think we've updated to being an additional $50 an hour, is that right?
Yeah.
30, 50.
Is 50 because we would pay the employee $30 an hour. But as I mentioned at our last meeting, the associated benefits that go along with that, the retirement that we have to pay, the FICA fees to the federal government, FICA taxes. So that adds to that $30 an hour. So we're collecting $50 an hour for the space and $50 an hour for the employee. So it's essentially a gym or an auditorium would be really $100 an hour. But half of that, we're just turning around and paying back to that employee who's here for that rental.
Right. I just want to understand. So why was it changed from custodian to district representative?
Because it wouldn't necessarily have to be a custodian who's here. It could be if there was a rental on a Saturday or a weekday evening, it would be up to the principal to just make sure that we had someone here who had keys that knew procedures and protocols at that particular school. Most of the time, it probably is someone from the facility staff, but it could be a teacher, it could be an assistant principal.
So we're just covering everybody. Okay.
We're just saying it's
Gotcha.
someone here representing the district.
So basically, and I was saying it will be about it'll be $100 an hour. So if you here 3 hours, you're only spending $300 for a rental fee, and that's cheaper than anywhere you can find in the county to rent a place for any type of event.
One other thing I wanted to note, because we did make an amendment to the policy, the application for school facilities KF-E with the 2. Since we were saying about the social media, was adding a line item, could be under the telephone, where it says individual/organization social media, username and handle. And then under the profit will be used for, and then adding that as well, because one of the things that we said is they will provide a flyer, and also if they're posting on social media, that would be included in our policy.
And that is under KF-R, it says publicity and promotion.
Right.
Individuals or organizations requesting use of school facilities must submit copies of all promotional materials. So that is listed in there as
right.
an ad.
I was just saying add it to the application, like it's a checklist for them as well.
Okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. So just as a checklist for the principal or whoever's accepting the application to say that has been provided. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Need a motion to approve second and final reading of these policies?
So that
KFE.
this motion would be then with changing KFE dash E2 to include like promotional items
Checklist.
provided.
Yeah.
So that we could identify that has been turned in if they're using those. Okay.
Okay. I'll move to adopt the revisions to policy KF for the second reading, policy KF-R, KF-E1, and then KF-E2 with the revisions to the application to include individual organizational social media, as well as promotional items attached in social media.
You make that second and final reading, Ms. Galloway?
As the second and final reading.
Okay.
A second.
Motion in the second and final reading for all the 4 policies for facilities.
I have a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Green.
Superintendent Thornton, can we do a final reading on KFE2 with that amendment that you just said? Is that permissible?
I believe so.
Yeah.
We did that amendment.
Yeah, it is.
It's not an amendment, it's already in the writing.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
What she asked for?
What she's asking for it to go on the checklist.
She want the same thing that's
Oh,
on the
okay.
policy.
We'll know that we got it.
It's not a.
I don't believe that would mean that we would have to start all
Right,
over
because you're
again.
not
I think we
changing the
just need to
policy.
leave that one out, but that's fine.
I think we're good.
If you're good with it, I'm good with it, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor of approving the policy, let them know by raising your right hand. All the school facility policies have been adopted unanimously. Okay. Next, we have the first reading of policy HCFB, Gavin's Law, H
That's
J
JICFB.
JICFB, Gavin's Law, and policy JHE, excused absence for career related technology student organization. Ms. Hazel Elderson, first reading on those two. And on those two first.
Good evening.
How you doing, Ms. Elderson?
Good evening.
Hi. For the first reading, I'll just tell you some distinctions between the, you should have in your board policy highlighted the differences in the policy. So for JICFB, Gavin's Law, we do have a faculty law for Gavin's. We're putting in place a student law for Gavin, which the information is exactly the same, except what you will see in your book, the reporting for the student. So on the back, you will see the reporting, the highlighted area. That is the new information that any student who feels he or she has been subject to sexual extortion is encouraged to file a complaint in accordance with the procedures established by the superintendent. Complaints will be investigated promptly, thoroughly, and confidentially. All staff members are required to report alleged violations of this policy to the principal or his or her designee. Reports by students or staff may be made anonymously, but formal disciplinary action by the district will not be taken solely on the basis of an anonymous report.
Okay.
JHE is a new policy. Actually, we have been adhering by this policy, but we're going to now vote to make it a policy, but we have been using this procedure. This is to support student involvement in valuable organizations. Students may be granted up to 10 days of excused absences per school year to participate in approved career and technology student organizations, and it gives you the example of those organizations that could be absences associated with the participation in approved CTSO experience will be considered lawful. So student absences in excess of 10 school days may be considered as unlawful under policy JH, and so that would have to have prior approval from the principal.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the first reading of the last policy.
Okay. JH-R, student
ma'am.
absences and excuses. That policy is already in effect. The difference is there's a highlighted portion on page 2 where it says option, and you should see some highlighted in red. It says furthermore, the changes were made that furthermore, in order to more fully clarify unusual or unexpected mitigating circumstances, each school principal should evaluate and submit to the superintendent/designee for approval for lawful absences situations.
So the word "and submit" has been changed.
To superintendent and slash designee for approval.
Okay.
That has been.
Okay. This is the first reading on all 4 of these. 1, 2, 3,
We have
4.
one more.
One more.
Yes, student absences and excuses. We have one sentence which is for JH, student absences and excuses. Which we went ahead and we're just going to go ahead and review the policy, but it is absences not to exceed 10 days to participate in a career technical student organization experience. It's just saying that anything over 10 days has to be superintendent or principal approved.
It's still possible, just has to be approved.
That's correct.
And these policy changes are really coming directly from the legislature. The legislature, Pat, they are essentially telling school districts, you will have a policy that allows this. So.
Okay. All right. We heard for the policies. I have a motion on.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move that we approve for first reading policy JICFB, Gavin's Law, JFE, excuse absence, career and technology student organization. JHE, excuse absence for career and technology student organization. JF, student absence,
And excuses.
It's
Mhm.
JH.
JH.
JH dash R. Yep.
JH and JH-R.
Okay. Motion to approve these policies on the first reading.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. First reading is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is board item for discussion. Policy GCD and policy GCC. Ms. Pruitt, what is it?
Actually, I think I asked for these two to be
Oh, I'm
placed
sorry, I
on
thought
the
that's-
agenda, and Ms. Pruitt had the next two.
Okay.
So I would like for us to look at policies GCC and GCD. I'm not ready with drafts for you yet, but I do want to just make you aware of a concern that's been brought to me. These are policies surrounding employee leave. So just the sick leave, vacation leave, different vacation days in the employee work calendars. So generally, all of our employees get between 12 to 15 sick days a year. So if you work a teacher schedule, so a 190-day schedule, you get 12 sick days a year. If you work a full 240-day schedule, you get 15. And you know, if you're 220, you might get 13 or 14. So anywhere, somewhere between those the numbers, 12 and 15. Up until December of 2023, we allowed people to accrue sick days all the way up to 180 days. So if you didn't use all your 12 sick days in a year, you could just roll them over to the next year and they could build all the way up to 180. And then upon retirement, we would pay employees, pay employees $50 a day for, I think, half of those. And then the other half would go to the South Carolina retirement system and they would earn service credit for those. So it was a benefit for all 180 days. In December of 23, that policy was revised. This is GCC, and it took that 180 down to 90. So now, according to the new policy, that's almost 2 years old now, employees can only build up to 90 days. And then I understand that last year in December, we stopped paying out those days. So we've got situations where, I'm just going to be honest, we've got some employees saying, well, hey, you paid this person out, you didn't pay me out. And we've got what I think might be some inconsistencies. And there's some folks at the district office that we're looking into this and trying to determine where those inconsistencies are so that we can make them right. Of course, we're not in a great financial position to be able to go back and pay these people off right now. But we're not, the number that I've seen that I haven't finalized yet, but the number that I've seen is I think less than $60,000 if we were to have to pay everybody out to make it right up to this point. So I don't think it's a overwhelming amount of money, but still, that's still a pretty big check to write. So I just want you to know that I want to look at this. I want to talk to our attorneys, because the most important thing to me is that we're consistent, that we treat all of our employees the same way, that we don't pay some at retirement and we don't pay others at retirement. We need to be consistent in how we apply these policies. And I do think that I'll let the attorneys kind of have a say on this, but I think what they're going to tell us is you can't just change a policy and then take away a benefit that someone had when they were hired. So when we allowed people to accumulate 180 days, the policy changed 2 years ago to say now it's 90 days. I don't think we're allowed to just wipe out 90 days for all those employees. I think the policy that was in place when they accumulated those days, so it's going to be a somewhat complicated.
They're going to be grandfathered in, is what you're
Probably
trying to say.
grandfathered, and then employees who were hired from December of 23 after, it would be, we don't have to allow people to continue accumulating up to 180. But if somebody already had more than 90 in December of 23, I think they keep those, and we'll have to pay them out accordingly the way that we. But I just wanted to let you know that we're looking into this. There's a team of us that have met at the office, and I have not gotten the attorneys involved yet, but I will, because I want to make sure what we're doing is,
How is
correct
that,
according to them as well.
how is that going to affect the days that you were saying that you were sending to the state towards their retirement time, I guess is what we're doing there, right?
Yeah.
The extra 90 days, if they had 180, you were sending that to the state and it was applying to a little bit longer retirement.
Right. And then, so I don't think the current policy really addresses specifically what happens with those 90 days upon retirement. So I think we're going to have to look at possibly revising this policy one more time and just being clear to say, here's how we handle this for everyone who was hired at this date moving forward. And then the folks who were hired before that, we're going to have to look at each individual case and try to be as consistent as we can.
So we can work it out on a local level, is what you're saying. That's what I'm hearing.
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly. I think we can work it out on a local level. We just want to be as consistent as we can. And then GCD is another interesting policy to me, professional staff vacations and holidays. And this would be, it only applies to full-time employees, 12-month employees. So for our district, that would be 240-day people. And we've got a good many 240-day employees, most administrators, a lot of the clerical staff that supports those administrators, principals, assistant principals, I believe right now are still 240. And if you look at that policy, it's in your packet, and it says that all 240-day employees get 10 days, and then after 3 years of experience, that goes to 12, all the way up to, if 10 years experience, you get 15 days. Then it further says, we celebrate the following holidays, and it lists out those holidays. And I've been checking, I've got a table that I'll share with you in preparation for our next meeting in January. So I've researched probably 5 or 6. Ms. Cribb and I have been looking at some neighboring districts and just what the neighboring district policies are. But I think probably is what happened over the year, and this is really just a guess on my part, but a lot of times districts used to have 250 or 260-day employees. So if you think 52 weeks in a year, 5 weekdays, each of those 52 weeks, that's 260 days. And I think this policy would be maybe more applicable for 260 than it is for 240. Because if you really look at the benefits offered to a 240-day employee, if they took all of the leave that they're granted, they would work fewer days than someone who had a 220-day calendar. That doesn't make good sense to me. If someone works 220, the only benefit they get is 14 sick days, because this policy, GCD, does not apply to them because they're not 240-day employees. So a 240-day employee, if they got these 7 holidays that are listed in the policy, that drops it from 240 to 233. And then if they had worked here 10 years and they get 15 days, that goes from 233 down to 218. And then if they use their 15 sick days, you're down to 203. Well, a 220-day employee, even if they used all their sick leave days, they're at 206. So it's just not, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me for a 240-day employee to actually be able to work less than a 220-day employee.
Can I say something here?
Absolutely.
Now, we've been having these policies quite a while. You can look down and see where we adopted it in 87, revised it in 93.
We have.
Revised it in 2000, revised it in 2004, 2006, 2023, where we have been revising it, changing the times and changing different things in it. And these policies have been vetted by the School Board Association,
That's true.
attorneys, and by everybody else. Now, and these holidays, I believe they're consistent with other districts across the state, pretty much. And with our time and our employees, I mean, being a state employee, being a retired state employee myself, those are some of the days that I was accustomed to being off. And even now, you can look up through the state, a lot of state employees, whether they work in these particular days or hours, 240 or whatnot. And I know school districts are a little different in a way, because a lot of times school is out and we kind of adjust schedules sometimes even in the summertime for this. But exactly what are we looking to try to modify in this? Take away people time or give someone some more time? What are we trying to do?
So, I agree with you. There's nothing illegal about this policy.
Right.
Nothing illegal about it. I guess I question whether it's equitable, because it doesn't make sense to me that someone who works a 220-day contract could actually have to work more than someone who works a 240-day contract. That just doesn't make sense to me.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to lower the number of days that they are allotted for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. But I also want to throw a monkey wrench in there, because this has been something I've been thinking about since Veterans Day. We don't get Veterans Day off here. So I was actually going to ask whenever we got ready to do the calendar if next year we could add Veterans Day to the calendar. So if we change this policy, would we need to look at that also?
So, a couple things. This list of holidays, we never work these days. They're always
Right.
holidays. So if you look at our 240-day work calendar, we never have it's never a work day on Christmas Day. I mean, that's
Right.
just, we never schedule work time for Christmas Day. But I think what's been in practice here is, oh, well, we've got a holiday, the work calendar doesn't call for us to work on Christmas Day, so we're going to move Christmas Day and take this day off too. And it's actually been reducing the 240 days to something less than. So I think the 240-day calendar should be 240 work days.
Mm-hmm.
We're never going to have our offices open on July 4th. We're never going to have our offices open on Christmas Day. No matter what day of the week Christmas falls on, we're going to be off that day. I mean, we're going to be off. So I think we should have a 240-day calendar. I do want to speak to your Veterans Day request. And I, as a former principal, teacher, and even as a superintendent, being able to go visit the schools, I think we would lose a tremendous teaching opportunity by being closed on Veterans Day. The best ceremonies that we have in our school districts all year
Mm-hmm.
revolve around Veterans Day. And if we're not in school on Veterans Day, most of our students are going to be at home watching TV, surfing the internet, and they're not going to get the impactful programs that they have in our schools. Where I was at BPS on Veterans Day this year, and they had a veterans parade where they had local community people there, and the students took part in a parade, and they were thank you veterans and all that. I think we honor veterans in our community more by being in school and having programs to invite them in and teaching our students, this is why we honor these people. So I, for one, and it's no disrespect to veterans, I just think we can respect them more by having our students in school. If you've ever been to a Veterans Day program in our schools, they're impactful. And I think I'd love to, we can get some feedback from our teachers, but that's just my personal experience. Is some of the best programs I've ever been to in public schools are on Veterans Day. And I think it's a great opportunity to show appreciation. In some of the middle schools and high schools, I've heard the bands, they play the different armed services songs, and they have the veterans who are in attendance stand up when they hear their particular branch's song. It's just good stuff. So, I think we're on the same page that we want to honor veterans.
Mhm.
I just think we can do it better with our kids in school that day.
I can appreciate that perspective.
And I agree with that too, because I think all of the schools here in the county and probably around the nation have, they're in school on Veterans Day, there's a Veterans Day program in that school, and they're honoring all veterans in each community,
Yeah,
and including our board members,
yeah.
going to different schools and honoring. I think it's a huge advantage, and it's an honor
Yeah,
to the veterans to see that
for
people
sure.
are doing that for
It's,
them.
it's a great place, great time for us to thank them. The last thing I want to say about GCD is so this policy pays full daily rate of up to 45 days of these vacation days that can be accumulated. That's a significant payout. I'm not saying it's bad. There's nothing illegal about it. As I was looking at the neighboring districts, there are 2 or 3 that have a very similar policy that they pay out up to 45 days, but there are a couple. Marion being one. I spoke with someone from Dillon 4 today. They don't pay out at all. And that, if you think of full daily rate times 45 at retirement, that's just a chunk of change. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's very difficult for us to do that right now in the financial situation we're in. And we need to just think about that. The other thing I have a little bit of a concern about is you have to work 240-day contracts to get that benefit. I think we should be as equitable as we can be to all of our employees. And a teacher who works in Marlboro County for 35 years has 0 opportunity to have this benefit of full daily rate for 45 days, according to this policy. They can't do it because they never work a 240-day calendar. So this benefit doesn't apply to them. And I just would love to see policies that think about all of our employees and try to be as consistent and equitable across the board. Now, it is true that if you work 240, you're here in June and you're here in July, you might work, even this year, you've probably seen a series of emails I've sent out in the last week about the 3 days after students get out. Students get out Tuesday the 16th this year. And we're open for the next 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So all of our 240-day employees, 220-day employees, and so on, they work those 3 days or they have to use personal leave, sick leave. So they do work more. So I understand giving a little bit of vacation so that in the summertime, when they want to go on their family vacation, they have kind of a different pot that they can use. They don't have to use all their sick leave. But I would like for us just to, I don't know, maybe discuss a little bit about how we could be as equitable as possible and still be financially prudent as well.
Can we request that you, Ms. Lakeisha, send us the similar policies that you were looking at so we can review those from the
I've
surrounding districts?
actually tried to compile a nice concise table
Okay.
that would summarize these 2 policies. We're happy to give you the actual policies. She's put those in a folder for us so we can share that, but I'll also share that spreadsheet we're working off of so that in January we can start talking about this policy and just, you guys control it. And again, there's nothing illegal about it. I'm
Right.
not saying that at all.
No, I wasn't saying that. It was just that, and I understand the money issue that we face as a board in the times that we are in. But also we have to look at our retention and other things. Everything that you take away that another school district is offering,
True.
that's the less likely that employee or you're going to gain somebody else coming into this district. Because we got to be honest with ourselves and look at Marlboro County. It's not a lot of amenities around here for someone. Someone come here, they got to get in their car and drive 45 minutes to take their family to have a good time. Anything that we can give an employee, kind of like help incentivize them to stay here with us, we need to be very careful about that in doing anything that might change that. And I do realize there's some people that may look and say, well, why we don't get this? I get that. But sometimes like you said, the summertime, a lot of people like the idea that they're off over the summer, June, July. I mean, we starting school a little bit earlier now. They may cut back on some of the time they had, but for this, the holidays and for this, the time for the people that are responsible, because you take a principal, they may be on a 240-day contract, but they are kind of like the superintendent in that building, just like you are the
They are,
superintendent.
no question.
You are off, but you're still responsible 365 days.
No
Not
question.
not just the 240. You're responsible 365 days. So that much is given. But a teacher, we do know our teachers, we can give them what we can with that, but we got to make sure we're in keeping with what other districts do when it comes to compensating our employees, especially ones that do work a full year.
I agree.
And I just think that's something we need to take into consideration. When we go in our budgeting for the new year coming in, we need to put it all on the table and look at it. Because sometimes you might cut, it might save you now, but it may hurt you down the road.
Yep. And I agree with Mr. Tom saying, and we just revised this policy in 2023. And I think when we did revise the policy, we was looking at the fact that those were some of the benefits that maybe want somebody to come to our district and to help our teachers out. So we went over this policy 5-6 times, and we basically doing what South Carolina School Board Association has us do. But I know we're in a crunch time. We're trying to find money, but the way to find the money is not to take away from teachers and people, that administrators that are working hard in the district. But it is a way we can do it, so to get our salaries in line where they need to be for the upcoming school year. And we all know what the problem is. So, it is what it is. We all know what needs to be changed and what needs to be done to get us where we need to be. And I don't want to look at taking somebody's vacation away.
And one of the things I'm saying here is not necessarily taking anything away, but I don't think that GCC adequately instructs us on what to do. So if a teacher's been here 15 years and they accumulate 90 days of sick leave, and then they leave, and they let's say they just resign and take a job in the private sector, what do we do with those 90 days? If they transfer to another South Carolina school district, it's pretty settled. Most districts around the state, you just take your days with you. But if they retire, what do we do with those 90 days? Do we give 45 to the retirement system and pay them out for 45 at X dollars a day? And if they just resign and go work in the private sector somewhere, what do we do with those 90 days? There just needs to be a very consistent detail in this policy that we don't have right now. And I think it's led to some of the inconsistencies we've had with employees who have already left. And that's when we open ourselves up for problems even if it's not malicious, even if it's just an oversight. But if we do one thing for one employee, we need to do that for all the employees. We don't need to be inconsistent in how we administer this policy. So I do think there needs, again, not necessarily taking anything away, just a little more explicit detail on what to do with the leave days once they've been accumulated and that type of thing.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Thor. Okay. Professional staff, back, vacations and holidays.
Those were the two that we were just discussing. So we will share that information that Ms. Cribb has collected and be ready to discuss this a little further in January.
You're going to bring suggestions to us.
We'll work with that, because one thing I want to do is talk to the attorneys, because it's very important that they approve.
We have a legal standing.
Yes, for sure.
Also, I'll suggest we look at what the South Carolina School Board Association has done for the majority of the district and what they're recommending along with our attorney. That'll help out a lot. Okay. Common assessment, Ms. Davida Jenkins. I missed the support staff.
GCF.
GDF and GCF.
We got 2 more policies to discuss, I think, don't we?
My page is not right.
Ms. Pruitt here.
Okay, it's policy GDF and policy GCF, and that pertains to professional staff hiring and support staff hiring. Policy GCF is in reference to professional staff hiring, and as it reads, it states, "The board will make the final decision regarding employment of professional staff in the district. Terms of employment, salary, number of annual workdays, daily work hours will be determined based on the established salary schedule set by the board." And for those listening, that is certified staff, not all staff. So that would not include janitors, secretaries, things like that. Support staff hiring is where those fall, which is GDF, and it states the superintendent employs all support staff. I think that it's important that maybe we add some verbiage in there that says, you know, it's up to the board as a whole. I personally think that it should say that the exact language for GCF, that the board makes the final decision. However, there are other districts where the superintendent just runs it by us, just gives us a list of who they're expecting to hire or want to hire. But it is at least, we are at least informed of it. So there's two options, in my opinion, that it would be in policy that the superintendent would run it by us and give us a list, or we actually decide on those. We have the final say. So what's your thoughts, Dr. Thorsley?
Well,
My most recent experience in this would be that the board hires certified staff, but the board is notified of all staffing changes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's okay. I personally wouldn't have any problem with you approving all hires. The one area where that can be difficult is, I was just seeing Ms. Chappelle in the audience. If she had a small cafeteria staff at one of our smaller schools, and let's just say that she only had 4 employees in one of her kitchens, and one of them leaves abruptly, just quits. She may need to hire someone, if they're 4 weeks between when that happens in the next board meeting, she may need to get someone in there. And we could work on hiring, this is pending board approval or something like that, and get somebody in place. But I think that's maybe the reason that a lot of districts have this, where it says the administration can hire support staff. I certainly agree that at a minimum, there should, and Mr. Mosby and I worked on this today, a new way of presenting employee recommendations to you that will show you everybody who's going to be hired, who they're replacing, what school, what location, why they're leaving, if it's someone who's leaving the district, that kind of thing. So we'll show you that in executive session, but I would say at a minimum, just a sentence after that on GDF that would say all employment changes or all new hires must be presented to the board at the next scheduled board meeting, or something of that nature. I could go either way.
Could we say something like updated at each meeting? In other words, what I'm trying to say is,
Yes.
I know what you're saying. If this person leaves and they're replaced, I don't necessarily need to know everything that's going on with that. I'm talking about myself now. I'm speaking strictly for me, everybody. I don't necessarily need to know everything that the district or the superintendent who they hire, that they place on the cafeteria staff and all that. But I would like to know a number, maybe at every meeting, so I don't get shocked that there's 150 new employees that's been that's being said that was, hired. As long as we're updated, then we would know what was going on, if that was possible or if it wasn't possible. But I just want to know.
I think it's best to have names. I think if we have an employee leave, we should report that to you, and we should say we're replacing this person with this person. I think you should see that, and that way there's no way for the numbers to get changed.
That's right, the
Because
numbers
for every
can-
person that leaves, here's the replacement. Or if there is a case where someone leaves and we're not going to replace because we can handle it with the existing staff, then we would explain that. And also, if we did need a new position for something, then we would have to say this is a new position and justify the new position before you would approve it.
But, and it's an easy way to do that. The only thing it takes is an email to the board notifying us when we have to have a change. Because if we don't, we would cripple principals and everybody. There's something happened in the middle of the month and they have to wait to the board meeting to hire somebody. We shouldn't have to wait that long. So basically we need to just an email, let us know. I lost two people, we need to, two classified people, we need to hire those two classified people and tell them who they are once you hire them. And that lets us know it's gonna be done. It can be done right away, we have to wait to have a board meeting to see. But for us to have to approve all new hires, certified and classified, you could cripple the district in more ways than help.
Well, I
doing
disagree with that because you can, like Mr. Thursland was saying, you can say that they're hired pending board approval. And that does happen in some districts. And it even happens here with teachers. They'll hire and pending the board approval. They've been already working before we even approve them.
I still don't see anything wrong with that if they're being hired and they're classified as long as we are notified. Yeah, I mean, it is the superintendent's job to keep the district moving forward and running. And if you got somebody that you have 2 or 3 positions that you can hire that are classified custodians, the school bathrooms need to be cleaned, things need to be done. So as long as we get notification, we don't need that authority. I think that's more micromanaging than anything. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I think as we move closer with Dr. Thorson to the budgeting process, and it'll come down to where we crunching the numbers. And I'm quite sure when we decide the number of teachers that we need, the number of support staff we need, and when we get to that number that will balance our budget and get us where we need to be. And I mean, if we had 672 employees for the district, if our magic number to get straight is 600, then we'll be in a position then where we know. Because I think the problem is what Mr. Driggers is stating is we was at a point where we didn't know exactly how many employees we had. I think that's what
Very
Mr.
true.
Driggers is alluding
That's right.
to.
It may be a discredited number that was not accurate. It may be an accurate number,
Well-
but the board needs to know
Well-
whether it was true or false. And we need to do that as we move forward on all.
Well, that's my point that I was making, that once we
problem with that?
get to the budgeting process, if our magic number is 550 district employees, we know we can't go over 550 employees. The board would know that because that's where our budgeting number be, and that's where we'll be at. And Dr. Thorson said, notifying the board of, we already get notified on the certified staff, and then they'll come in and let us know the support staff. And I think we'll be straight, knowing our numbers.
Just hearing the discussion, I think that would probably be the best compromise position is if we add a sentence to policy GDF that it's highlighted in your packet now where it says the superintendent employs all support staff. We could just follow that with another sentence that says board will be notified of all support staff hires at the next regularly
correct.
scheduled board meeting.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And then there would be no one hired in the school district that you would not be aware of
Absolutely.
by at least the next school board meeting.
That's correct.
And I would like to go on record because I've heard an awful lot in the community. The board did not know who all was hired on support staff until we talk this out right now. We will now start knowing how many people are hired. I did not know who was hired or fired in the support staff up until everything came out. Thank you.
Hey, good afternoon. Look, technically, Mr. Driggers, we still are not done because we're not adding any language up. So if you're gonna say that, I mean, we probably need to add additional sentence. We need to have must of some sort, because if we stay how we are, we're gonna continue to have the same exact language. So how is that gonna secure that we're not gonna have an influx in support? That's the only thing I'm kind of a little weary of. If we leave it as such, like how we have to include must of some sort. Because it's still though we stand with the same exact language that we had.
I agree with you, Mr. McCray. I think we need to say the administration must notify the board of all hires no later than the next regularly scheduled board meeting. I do think we should have language in there that makes it a requirement of the superintendent at administration to notify you of every single person hired in the school district, no later than the next board meeting.
Yes, sir. And in regards to, I mean, we might have to see where appreciation, you have something of emergency, I understand that. So even the language can include with cause, or however we define cause of some sort, but we can't, I don't think it would be I'm really telling you, to have it as such, we kind of need to have some kind of, they include something with must in it, where it's not an optional thing.
Notification.
Kind of need, I don't need to have an optional thing.
Okay.
I think another way we could look at doing that is saying all new positions must be approved by the board before they can be hired. The only example of a place where I think it could kind of slow progress if we couldn't replace someone would be like if we had a bus driver leave and there were still 3 weeks before the next board meeting. We might need a bus driver to drive that bus, or we're going to have students late getting home. So we may need to go ahead and try to hire someone, but then you should be notified at the next board meeting about who left and who we replaced that person with. But if it's a new position, I think your fear, Mr. McCray, is that a superintendent could hire 5 people in between board meetings. If you put language in there to say any new position, not replacing someone, has to be approved by the board before the position can be filled, I can't think of a time when that would inhibit administering the school
That would
district.
be good.
Yes, sir.
And I think we already, don't we get an update in executive session?
No, sir.
Executive session?
No,
So
sir.
when we get in executive session, don't this, most we come in executive session, give us all new hires?
Only certified staff.
We don't get a list of, that's not true. Y'all must be sleeping in executive session.
We do not get a list of bus drivers, secretaries.
He put it on the screen for us every
Versus-
board meeting in executive session.
No, sir.
No,
We don't.
we did that in the past, but we haven't done it lately
You
at
will,
all.
you will get that tonight, and here forward, that would be my intention, to give you every change that occurs from month to month. Whether it's support staff or certified staff, you would see everyone who leaves, everyone who is a replacement for those people who leave.
That was a thing, like I said, that we have done in the past, but, and we need to move forward.
Yes,
So,
we do.
You know, we need to move forward. That was something that we had stopped doing. Won't get it anymore, but it sounds like we're getting ready to start back getting it. So we need to move forward.
All right, let's move forward. All right. Ms. McCall. Common assessment, Mr. Peter McCall.
If I can just interrupt briefly, I think both Ms. Galloway and Ms. Pruitt had asked some questions just about testing and some of the assessments that we're giving students in our classrooms. And Ms. McCall's here just to talk about common assessments and what those are and kind of what our thought process is behind why we give those and why we grade them and so on. So, Ms. McCall, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Dorsland, good evening. I am, as Dr. Dorsland said, here to explain our purpose of common assessments and our process for common assessments. Last year, our chief academic officer had the curriculum department go to schools, conduct observations, and come back with some findings of some things that we needed to support our teachers with. My suggestion was teacher-made assessments, to look at teacher-made assessments and to assist teachers with making assessments that were more standards-based. At our administrative retreat, my session was on comparing teacher-made assessments and standards-based assessments with the school administrators. At that meeting, some of the school administrators shared that we did this with common assessments. Common assessments were helpful with making sure that we assessed students on the complete standard. So I started working to create common assessments. We have a team of teachers and reading coaches. We have 2 district level staff people who have assisted with making common assessments for us because I was having a hard time finding some middle school people. But for the most part, we have teachers and reading coaches who come together on some of the early release days, and we use Progress Learning, a program that is a standards-based testing program, used to be USA Test Prep, and we use the item bank that they provide, and we create common assessments based on the district's pacing guide. These common assessments are created for kindergarten through 8th grade students in ELA and in math. Um, we use those pacing guides. I think we're about 2 weeks behind with our pacing guides. So when I say 2 weeks behind, what I mean is information that we assess on with the common assessment has been in the pacing guide. If we assess today, it would have been in the pacing guide for before Thanksgiving, so that we can make sure that students have received that instruction on all the information and are caught up with the pacing guides. Unfortunately, we're kind of behind with common assessments this year. We're only on our 6th assessment. The goal was to have assessments every 10 days, but we had a gap in there during some time trying to allow teachers to catch up with their standards, catch up with their pacing, because they were a little slow on pacing. So we had a gap around the first week in October where we allowed for teachers to catch up on their pacing so that they would be up and everyone would be prepared. We want to make sure that students receive the instruction on the standards before they take the common assessments. Our common assessments are graded, not for kindergarten students because they don't get a grade, but our common assessments are a quiz grade. Quizzes are 20% of our final grades. So we do grade common assessments for 1st through 8th grade students.
So can I jump in on a couple of things, just terms I want to make sure everyone understands. So when you hear pacing guide, 3rd grade math, I'm just using that as an example. We want all of our 3rd grade students who take math, which would be all of them, we want them to get the same instruction, whether they're receiving that instruction at Clio or Wallace or any of our schools. We want the instruction to be the same. And we want that instruction to be straight from the South Carolina 3rd grade math standards. So we've had teams of people, including teachers, look at those standards and say, for us to teach all of these 3rd grade math standards, here's a pacing guide that will get us through all of these standards in, let's say, 160 school days, because come May, beginning of May, these 3rd grade math students have to take the state test, and we know the state test covers all of these standards. So we put a guide out there to help our 3rd grade teachers to say, if you teach at this pace, cover this topic on this day, this topic on the next day. And it's not quite so rigid. We don't say on December the 8th, you have to teach this, this, and this. But we generally say on these standards here, you should spend probably a couple of weeks. Then you go to these next standards and you might have a couple more weeks. And it keeps teachers on pace, because it would be terrible if we get to early May and students are taking tests and we haven't finished covering all the standards that they're responsible for. So we're not trying to handcuff teachers, but we are trying to say it's only fair to our students to cover all the standards that South Carolina says we have to cover in this grade level in this subject area.
So is that why October the 1st, some of our teachers were behind because of this pace guide?
Yes.
Yes, well, they were behind with the pacing guide. So they were behind on the pacing guide. Typically at the beginning of the school year, teachers are getting used to students are getting used to their teachers. It takes a little bit longer to get off the ground. So yes, we were a little bit behind. Most of our teachers were a little bit behind on their pacing guides with their standards. And so that's why we took that little break, so that we could catch everyone up. We wanted to make things fair for our students. We can't assess them on things that we haven't taught them. So we took that little break so that teachers could catch up with their pacing guides. I also wanted to mention that we take this information, this isn't just a test that we give, we take the information from the pacing guides, and in the professional learning communities that schools do, they have professional learning communities on Wednesdays where they do professional development. They include the analyzing the common assessments in those professional learning communities so that they can look at standards that students have been tested on. What commonalities do you see in your classes with those standards? Are you seeing where all your students are passing those standards, all those students are meeting those standards, or do we need to go back and reteach? Those are the type of, so we use we use what students, the grades that students make, we use the common assessments to go in and analyze that data so that we can instruct. So it's to drive our instruction moving forward.
And these are common formative assessments. They're really for the teacher as much as they are for the student, because it will allow a teacher to say, wow, when I gave this assessment, 75% of my students didn't get this question right on 2-digit multiplication. That means I've got to go back and re-instruct my class on that when I have some free time later because they just didn't get this. So I'm going to go back and reteach this. So it's called a formative assessment in that it gives the teacher information about what he or she may need to go back and reteach and help their students learn. Now, it is a debate as to whether common formative assessments should be graded. And you can read both sides. Some people say no, that if it's for the purpose of teaching, then we don't need to assess the students. The argument against that is that if you tell the students it's not going to be graded, they're not going to perform their best on it. They're going to say, this doesn't affect me, I'm not going to answer it. And then you don't get an accurate assessment of what they know. So I think we're kind of in a middle ground where we're not giving it major test grades, but we are saying it counts because we want it to be meaningful to the students. We just don't want it to be, if they do poorly, it's not going to mean that they're failing the class. They still have an opportunity for success on their major test grades. So I feel like we're in a pretty good place on that. I think pacing guides are absolutely essential. And I know that, there are two sides of that coin too. Some people will say, well, I can't go on to the next topic because my students don't have this one yet. But if you continually do that, you get to the middle of April and you realize I've only covered half the curriculum and you don't ever get finished. So we have to have a guide to help us pace our class the way we need to. That's why they're called pacing guides. So and then the common formative assessments help us make sure that what we're teaching at Wallace and what we're teaching at McCall are the same. And it's not what we choose, it's what the state of South Carolina has said you have to teach in 3rd grade ELA or 9th grade geometry or, whatever, I guess 8th grade geometry in some cases. But anyway.
There's a couple of things I want to
Sure.
say about that because I did ask about the common assessments. First, when we're talking about standards, for those who are watching online, a standard is like what he was saying, 2-digit multiplication. That would be what a state has required a teacher to teach, that kind of thing. So if a teacher's not teaching that standard, they can tell, it's been said, that all the students haven't grabbed that information right. But also, I like having these assessments, but I did not realize we were doing them every 10 days. Do we think that that's a little bit excessive?
So they're not very long. Don't think about a unit test that
I know
takes.
it's like 20 questions, right?
We try to make them 10 questions. Maybe we may run over 1 or 2 questions, but we want it to be a short assessment to gauge student understanding of those standards. We don't want it to take a class period. It shouldn't take very long at all, about 15 to 20-minute assessment.
So it's only a part of one day's lesson. So we're not spending a whole day on that assessment.
For me, 10 questions kind of raises a little bit of a concern. While it is a positive that it's a short test. However, it also could be detrimental in a grade that's going in a grade book. You only have 10 questions, you miss one, you already got 80. So that's a little bit of a concern for me. I'm sorry, you're right,
You
9.
missed 2, it's 80.
I'm sorry.
But it's only a quiz grade, and all your quiz grades added together only count 20%, correct?
Of the final grade,
So
yes.
we're not talking a major assessment here. If a student did poorly and made a 70 or 80 on one of those, I mean, we're only talking probably 1 or 2% of their final quarter grade. It's not.
And that's included with other quiz grades as well.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not just common assessments aren't the only quiz grades that they receive.
Okay. And then also, how much do you think class size is affecting whether the teacher is staying on pace?
So
Because class size can be
yes.
behavioral issues. It can be,
Mhm.
I have so many kids, I can't make sure every one of them's learning every standard. And we have large class sizes right now. So could that be why our teachers aren't staying on pace?
I do think it could possibly affect pacing a little bit. The professional literature around class size actually does not support that it has a huge impact on student learning. But I think if you ask any teacher what the difference is like to have 30 versus 20, they'll tell you it's a huge difference. So for teacher morale and retention of teachers, I think class size is extremely important. But I don't think you'll find a lot of professional literature that will say larger class sizes keep kids from learning. It does make it harder for the teacher, and it's something we want to pay attention to, and we want to get our class sizes down. So I'm not saying it's unimportant. Please don't interpret that. I'm just saying most of the literature will say it doesn't affect student performance that much, but I'll just say teacher sanity, it affects. If you got a class of 30 that you're teaching every day, that's a hard job. And we don't want classes as big as we've got in some places this year. So we want to do everything we can to get our class sizes down.
How many places in the county, schools in the county, that we have classroom sizes that 30 children or more? Only 2 places, right? That's Blenheim and McCall, right?
Dennisville Primary does too.
What about Clio? No problem in Clio?
Yeah,
no problem in Wallace?
I can gather a report that would give you all the class sizes. I do, but I guess what I'd say is I don't want any of 30 or more. I'd like for us to be 25 or below across the board if we possibly can. So I think we've got a little work to do there. But again, that's hopefully an answer to your question.
Okay.
Ms. McCall, the assessment, we're doing that to see where our children are, so
Yes,
that we
sir.
can bring them up.
Yes, sir.
And that's the reason for the frequency of it, because we're that far behind and we're trying to get on pace to bring our scores and stuff up.
Well, yes, sir. We do them frequently. Well, and like I said, we're behind on our common assessments. But the point of the 10 days is, one, to make sure to keep up with the pacing. We want to make sure that the test is not extremely long. Like we said a few minutes ago, we want it to be a quick gauge of student understanding, not something that's going to take a class period for them to do. So, but we want to make sure that they are meeting standards. So that's the reason that we do it so frequently, to make sure it's not a long test, but we are checking for student understanding and knowledge of standards.
And in the curriculum department, we've been doing this for quite some time.
We took a break from them, which is why we had that discussion at the administrative retreat, and principals were saying that, school administrators were saying that that we should go back to them. Some of them were saying that we should go back to them. But yes, common assessments have been around for a long time.
And also the pacing guide.
Yes, sir.
It's
Yes,
been
sir.
around for-
Pacing guides have, yes, we revise pacing guides each year to go along with new upcoming standards and things like making changes, as Dr. Thorson said, making sure that we teach all standards prior to state assessment.
Right. And the reason I was saying that, I just want, because I'm quite sure all the board members should know that this is nothing new that we are doing, and it is something that needs to be done. And
That's right.
as Dr. Thorson stated, the state requires us to do a certain, and we all know we are required to make progress. And I think with the assessment and with the pacing guides and getting everybody on task, I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
So the reason I even asked for this to even be discussed was so that we could, as a board, be given some information on how the pacing guides, how the assessments are turning out. Maybe we can get some sort of statistical feedback on how well the children are learning from those assessments.
If the common assessments are effective, then we'll see consistency between the common assessments and the end of the year assessments. I would encourage that we don't use common assessments and report that data to the board publicly, because what we report here has to be reported everywhere. I don't think we want to take quiz grades and start making a public display of those. I think it gets too personal with teachers, and we've got very, very competent principals and assistant principals who are helping teachers use that data to affect instruction. I don't think that common assessments need to be discussed publicly as far as here what the scores are. We get that with the end of the state assessments are publicly displayed to everybody. And I think that is enough as far as what's presented to the public. I don't think we need to get into a teacher's grade book per se and start discussing that. I think we've got trained administrators who are good at working with their teachers to perfect that. So I would prefer we stay away from that. And because again, one of the most important parts of common formative assessments is because it informs the teacher on what they need to change or reteach I don't know that a board meeting is a
So
talk about that.
I was using common assessment more or less as a means of coming to an answer for what I really am asking for. What I'm asking for is, we get the report card yearly.
Yes.
Is there some sort of way we can check up on where we're at without waiting until a whole year report card?
I appreciate the question, and it's a good question. And I do think we could say, hey, our formative assessments, our common assessments have been up this year.
Sure.
A general statement like that to encourage, but once a year, but those kids take that state test once a year. That's why it's only reported once a year. We really can't give an interim assessment except that our teachers feel very confident about their classes, their common assessments, their grades are doing well.
So maybe a check-in?
Tell you what, let me discuss that with principals at the next principals meeting, and the instruction staff can kind of kick some ideas around. I don't have a quick answer right off the top of my head to maybe satisfy what you're asking, simply because the state tests are given once a year. So it's hard we can give predictions, like there are tests out there, map tests and things, where you can draw correlations and say they did well on this, so we predict that they're going to do real well on the state test too. But so anyway, we'll kick that around, see if we can come up with an acceptable answer where we could maybe give a midpoint update on how we're feeling. But I want to talk to the principals about that before I commit to anything.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Earl.
Okay.
Next on the agenda, we have an update of the Attorney General's audit investigation. Had board members ask me, we hadn't heard anything from the audit. Dr. McLeod, you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, Dr. Starson, what I wanted to know was, what have you heard from the Investigative General's audit, concerning the money that was supposedly mismanaged by the previous two superintendents?
Yes, sir. And I did reach out to the principal investigator today just to get an update. And he wasn't trying to be smart. He clarified, but he basically just said the investigation is ongoing. And that's really all he can say at this point. I don't have any information. I don't think anyone in the district has information. There are many of us who have been interviewed, and I was interviewed by them. And I know a lot of the school administrators have been interviewed, or district administrators. So he didn't even give me a time frame for when a report would be available or anything. He just said that the investigation is ongoing. That's the only answer.
Yeah, well, it's ongoing. It's been around for at least all of this year. He's been up here. So, my thing is, what's the problem? Maybe not talking to the right people. Like I told you, I wanted to talk to him. Nobody wants to talk to me because, like I say, I might know where some of the bodies are buried at, where some of the spending went or whatever.
Okay, that was a metaphor for anyone listening. That was just a metaphor. He doesn't really mean it.
But he talking to you. You weren't here whenever all this was going on.
You're right.
So, you can't give them any input. But to me, it doesn't look like they're looking for it, for whatever reasons.
That's a state agency.
I understand.
I don't.
In other words, like you said, you weren't here.
I wasn't.
So, and you asked him, so, he gave you that generic answer. But bottom line is, they said that, that we're short all this money. So, they come in and they've got all the finance, and they've had it ever since July. Something should be starting to surface about now, because I've got a good idea where they bought all that purple and gold paint at. That's easy to find out. But like I said, it is what it is.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody? All righty. We'll continue on. Thanks. Now we have the superintendent's report.
I think the finance report maybe first.
Yes.
So you've got, I believe, 6 pages in front of you for the finance report today. And I want to start with the best news that I could possibly give you. The audit was completed on time and submitted to the State Department on time. And even better than that is the auditors had no findings to say that anything was being done inappropriately. So I think our finance office needs to be applauded for that. Great work on their part. And anyway, so that's really, really good news. And that's on the front of that page.
What time frame are you speaking on this financial report that this audit was done?
The finance report, and y'all, I apologize. I know you want this a little bit ahead of time. Miss Grant is not in the office this week. She had a death in the family, so it's a separate piece. It's a separate piece. It was placed at your. Here, we can share it.
Okay.
Along with the good news on the audit, they did finalize the general fund balance as of June 30th of 2025, which is kind of the one day a year that we know how much money we have in our bank account. It was a little bit more than $4.9 million. Last couple of meetings, we've been throwing out the number 5.5 million, so we were a little bit under that. So we came in at 4.9. I did a calculation there, or Ms. Grant did for you, so you can see where we are in relation to the 8.3 that's required by the state. And 8.3 is not a random number. That just happens to be 1/12 of your budget.
The 8.3%.
Huh?
8.3.
8.3%.
Not 8.3 million.
No, that's right. Okay, thank you for clarifying. 8.3%, which is 1 month's expenses. The state requires us to have 1 month's expenses in the bank. And for us, I think that number on there is about $3.9 million or $3.8 million. We have 4.9, so we're safely above that number right now. But then the last part of that front page, I did put a word of caution because this year's budget was planned $1.4 million with a $1.4 million deficit. Sure. So if we spend that, that would mean next June 30th, our fund balance would be more like $3.5 million. That would be below 8.3, which would be a concern. So I just said that's why we're having to make mid-year cuts. That's why when people are leaving right now, we're not necessarily replacing that person, because we need we don't need that to be 3.5 on June 30th next year.
No.
We need that to be above the 3.8 that's required.
Right.
So that's why we're making changes right now. That's why we're really tightening the belt as much as we can.
That's because, we have the 24-25 general fund expenditures with the 833 fund balance requirement of 3.8. But if we look at our budget for this year, which is 42 million,
That's correct.
close to 43, that would put us, even though we would still be at 3.5, but we would only be for this year.
So if our expenditures this year are less than they were 2 years ago, you're correct. It would bring that 3.8 down a little bit. It might be 3.75 instead of 3.8.
It'd actually be like 3.56. Based on what our 42 million is now, 42,000,007, it would be $3,563,712.
Okay.
Based on what our budget is, and the 3.5 that would show us being, as we stand now, and if we use that 1.4, we are 63,000. We would be $63,000 off. Yeah. So with our cuts we're making, we should be in a good position.
If our expenditure budget was accurate, yes, I agree with you, but that's too close for me. I don't want there to be any doubt that we're going to be above that 8.3%. So I do think it's still in our best interest to be as thrifty as we can with our expenditures this school year.
So what you're telling us is this audit is accurate, and we can honestly say that we have 4.9.
On June 30th, we had $4.9 million in the bank after they settled all the accounts.
But we did not know this until tonight, right?
No district that I'm aware of knows exactly what their fund balance was on June 30th until they get the official audit. That's correct.
Okay, I understand that. So that being said, there was some things said that $7 million, $5 million was taken and spent. No money has been spent. We have $4.9 million. You don't understand what I'm saying, do you?
We had that. So yes, and actually, Dr. McLeod kind of referenced this too. I don't want anybody to think. I don't know that there's been any kind of fraud or anything in the school district.
Right.
I think we've spent more than we've brought in.
Right.
But I'm not saying that means somebody's stolen it or misappropriated it. I just think we have too many employees, so we've spent more than what we brought in. So, I mean, maybe the IG is going to uncover some kind of fraud, but I certainly don't have any evidence of that right now. I just think we have to trim our expenditures so that what we bring in tax revenue wise is more than what we spend.
We have two avenues: decrease the expenditures or increase revenue is what I hear.
Absolutely.
That's the only two options that we really have. We got to decrease what we're paying out and increase what we're bringing in. I mean, it's simple.
And I got a report this week on the ITA, the Index of Tax Paying Ability, and that shows the growth of a mill. And we did see on that report, it showed a 3% growth in the value of a mill in Marlboro County. That's good. That means that with the same millage, you're going to bring in 3% more money. So revenue does grow.
Would you say that's because we didn't roll back the millage when the reassessment was done?
I don't know. I just know what was on the report. I can't say why.
Anywho,
The problem I have with the whole thing is that, we were saying we were in the red a few months back, $5-6 million in the red, and the whole county in uproar. But now we got $4.9 million after we audit.
But we don't have it right now. We had it on June 30th.
I understand that.
and then
But
people wasn't paid.
we spend more in the fall than what we take in because we don't get ad valorem taxes until January, February. So all school districts spend more in September, October, November than they bring in.
Yeah.
And you want that fund balance so that you don't have to borrow money during those lean months in the fall and winter. So we don't have $4.9 million right now. We had it on June 30th. We will have it, something close to it again after we get the taxes in February, but we don't have it right now.
So basically, you didn't know this until this audit was complete, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, right. We didn't know we had it, and we wouldn't have known we was missing $5-6 million until now, right? But it was said that way and put the public in uproar. So we did not know what we had then because we can only find out now that this audit is done. That's what I'm saying.
I think what was stated was the previous audit's balance, and then the next year's previous audit's balance, and then the next year's estimated previous balance at the end of this year, which we're just now finding out that dollar amount. We were told that it was going to be somewhat of about 3 million. So that's what was stated, was facts of what the audits were showing at the end of every year.
Dr. Thornton.
Yes, sir.
Got another financial question. I noticed on Facebook that two of my fellow board members took a trip to Columbia to the State Department. Was that trip sanctioned by the district?
So I was going to talk to you about that tonight. We have limited travel right now. We're not traveling a lot, and that's board members as well as school district staff. But we have tried to support trips that are state level. So if it's a State Department, School Boards Association, or SCASA affiliated training, we've tried to still support it in a limited way. I do think that we need to consider further curtailment of travel because we're still spending quite a bit of money on travel, and I think it will benefit us if we
I want to speak on that because I was one of the ones that went to Columbia. That was a free class offered by our state superintendent. We were not reimbursed for travel. We did not stay the night. That's something we did on our own dime.
Well, but the thing about it was, it appeared that you were representing this board.
No, sir. I even
Well,
been there,
it said that the program was open to board members.
it was everybody on this board was emailed the opportunity.
I'm sorry, I wasn't.
Oh, he made
Sorry.
You were emailed.
Well,
You're a liar. I was not emailed. I was emailed.
All right, call order. Point of order. Bottom line is, I think that in the future, what we do, and like Dr. Thorson said, we all need to be notified if any of us going to go on the trips anywhere. Just like the legislative meeting you went to the weekend.
Yeah.
Everybody, the whole board knew you was going. So even if you went to the State Department, you still representing the board. The entire board needs to know. I saw the email. I didn't want to go. So y'all went, but the board should have known that you were going to represent the board. That's
This
all.
is a free country. It wouldn't have.
I understand it's a free country, but you're serving on a public school board, and you're representing
the whole board.
If you went to that meeting and said board members, you represented Marlboro County.
You make a point. You make a point, Mr. Collins.
I think it's
For all of the things that we do, professional development, what have you.
right.
If we're wearing a badge, we'll make sure everyone knows.
That's all that's all I think. That's all Dr. McGuire. We all. If I go to a meeting somewhere, I'm gonna let y'all know. We all need to know. I know the country is free. I'm a free man, but I will let you know, boys. Board of member.
I do think that Ms. Grant and we discussed last week whether we needed to further restrict travel, and I would like to bring up the possibility of restricting overnight travel for the rest of this school year. But if we're going to do that, we need to be consistent, and that would mean kind of across the board. No pun intended there, but that would mean employees, but I think it would only be fit for that to be board members, administrators, teachers, if we're going to restrict overnight travel. And the reason it saves money is because the big expense for overnight travel is hotel expenses. And that.
Can I ask a question though? Because what you said, if that's true, if we're gonna do that, that exact meeting that we went to, again, it was free. I want to make sure that's reiterated so the public knows, and the school district paid nothing for me and Ms. Galloway to go to Columbia. However, if we are going to inform the whole board that, hey, we decided to go, even though the whole board was emailed, if we are ever asked to come and speak at a church event and we're introducing ourselves as a board member, I think that that should be stated to all of us as well, because I've seen Facebook posts where board members have gone and represented the board because they said that they were a board member when they spoke at events. Also.
No, that's stretching, yeah. Yeah, that's good. But I just want to bring this point up. We have the annual convention coming up in February that all school boards across the state goes to the annual convention called the state of South Carolina. And we do have a budget, and I don't think one board, that's the most important board meeting for us to go to. Other than that one, I wouldn't care if we exempt the rest of them, but the annual board meeting for all school board members is in February, right?
Well, and that, yes, sir. I do think that's a choice that you guys would have to make. I would have a hard time telling principals that they can't go to SCASA's leadership retreat in June if the board went to the board retreat in February.
Well, if the principal have a budget for that, I think they should be. The board has a budget for that. I mean, if we only go to one board meeting out of the year when we've been going to 5 or 6, we've cut back 5, 6 of the board meetings we're going to save money. And so I think we want to save money, but we don't want to limit ourselves from not getting educated on how the laws are working or working with other school board members. That's a weekend that we work with our school board members from all across the state to learn things to bring back here to our children, to our county.
I guess the only thing I'd say is I do think drastic times can require drastic measures, and we are still in a financial crisis. I mean, we
realize that.
And
absolutely.
I would again, I want to be consistent, so it would be hard for me to tell a principal they can't go to SCASA in June if the board went to the board retreat in February. I think that's being
So in
consistent.
discussing that, I would be open to only 2 of us going and reporting back to the board. I've only gone on 1 trip a year that was overnight anyway, so I'm fine with that.
Well, I think
there's some compromises in there, I'm sure. I mean, it's at Myrtle Beach. You could drive down and drive back at night.
That's right.
There are other compromises. I'm an old member of the board, and at one time we used to designate 2 people to go to the meetings. Not the whole board didn't go. 2 people would go and represent you. Not the annual, but some of the other ones, like the ones coming up in Charleston. I think, is it already come up, or is it?
That was this past weekend.
Well, whatever. Some of those meetings like that, we would just designate 2 representatives to go, and then they would come back and say, this is what happened, and present the program. There's some alternatives that we can work on here. I, for one, think this is something we need to discuss maybe in executive session a little bit instead of here, but everybody might feel different. But anyway, we can discuss this as we move forward and try to figure this out.
I think it should be talked about in open session because it pertains to the taxpayers' dollars and how we're spending them.
Well, I think, our board policies, our strategic plans and different things like that, a lot of things that we approved as a board and we sent to the State Department, like the strategic plan, right. It stated training that we were going to send our teachers to. It stated trainings that we were going to send different people to. And we voted to approve that, and we sent it to the State Department. And obviously, I think they signed off on it because they normally do when you turn your strategic plan in. And to cut it, we may be cutting our own neck because we may not be getting the people the training that they need. And also, and to Ms. Pruitt's point there, we do need to have somebody on the board to represent us because things do change, and we do need to have someone there to bring that information back. And the same thing at the schools. If we're down in the Pacific area And part of our renewal plan was for us to send people off to be trained this summer in Chicago someplace, then we need to send them off to get that training to come back. I- If that's what we put in our strategic plan. But if not, and we're not gonna do that, that means we need to redo them plans and go back on what we said we was gonna do. And I understand the budget being short, and I mean, watching out for finance should be something from the lesson that we learned from what we're going through now. That need to be something that we do all the time, to be aware of our physical our physical house. But to abruptly cut off all the travel district wide, we may be hurting ourselves. That's just my opinion on that. We may be hurting ourselves. Because I think we kind of need to look at it, and if we need to do it strategically, then we need to do it strategically.
Absolutely.
Because I think some things been approved that I think needs to go ahead and move forward with it. Because I know in the summertime, that's normally when they have scouts in the summer, correct? And I think some of them may need to go to get the new stuff that's coming out, and I understand us as a board, we probably have what, 6 or 7 trainings. That's how you move up in your levels from going to training. You know, just what last month we've just now moving up in levels, and you have to go to so many trainings to get so many credit hours in order to move up, showing what you've learned being on the board, what kind of training that you have. So we need to look at it.
I would, to that, I would like to say that the general public doesn't even know what that means, that we moved up in a level. That's just something that we really know. And so to them, for the taxpayers' concern of our dollars, I feel like that's irrelevant.
Well, they don't know what the principal's gonna do at Scouts, they don't know what the teacher's gonna do when they go get a master's degree. The public just don't know. But that don't mean you shouldn't be trained because the public don't know.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that our levels is really irrelevant, what level we are.
Dr. Thorson, for the Sky, so where's that typically held? Does it move different states, or is it typically in one place?
It is in the state. So the South Carolina School Boards Association and the South Carolina Association of School Administrators, I'm not aware of any of their conferences that have ever been outside of the state of South Carolina, but they're typically at the coast, largely because the hotel complexes aren't big enough in other areas, you know, at Myrtle Beach, Hilton Head, those are Charleston sometimes, those are the places that have the hotels that are large enough to accommodate those crowds. But the SCASA conference is typically at Myrtle Beach.
And it typically, in the past, I know you weren't here, but is it that every administrator of the schools go, or is it just the head lead principal?
It's not every administrator, but I'd say for most districts, probably most administrators go.
Okay.
And again, I can't speak to here, but there are a lot of administrators down there in June. I'll say that just from across the state. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. The networking is critically important. I'm not saying that the training and the travel is a bad thing. I'm simply saying it is expensive to travel when you go stay overnight. And we're not in a place to spend a lot of money right now.
And remember, we're only talking this school year. That's what I heard you say. The rest of the school year until we can figure out the budget. Also, again, I'm speaking because I've been here a while. A lot of the presentations can be delivered to you by computer now, and you don't have to go there and sit in the classroom. I'm just saying, I'll agree. Well, I agree with the superintendent. If we're going to ask our employees to make these cuts and do this thing, I think it's only appropriate that this board makes cuts also and try to help with the budget. So that's where I'm sitting at here. But
any training,
again, this should be an executive session, I think. But go ahead.
Any training that we were required to have, if there were legislative changes or the State Board of Education made changes that we had to know about, they would notify us. It's not like we would fail to learn those things by not going to the conferences.
Excuse me, but being that we're speaking on conferences, I want to also just say, Chair and Mr. Johnson, I appreciate it along with everyone. The delegation that we went through this last weekend, it was probably one of the best. Now, I totally understand
you know, no one else is eyeing the dollar. But we definitely have to think in regard to laws that's changing and have a voice and a seat at the table. We can't tell our own story because we're a rural, poverty-stricken community. Everyone else doesn't go through the financial strains and obstacles that we do. So if we don't have anyone to kind of push our ideas and in correlation with what Mr. Thomas is speaking about, if you go to training, the more you actually level up, you actually have the opportunity to bring rural poverty up to Columbia. You can push it. Like if anything else, we kind of don't want to remove ourselves in totality. I understand what Mr. Goethe was saying in regards to an annual training. Don't actually have the points, you're not going to have a voice, you're not going to have a soul, a say so. So we're not like an area that's a green belt area or one area, but our options are different. So what we would kind of do, if we could, we might can send you, or but it's like, how are you going to split those two when everyone is doing the their constituents in their community? You have a due diligence to actually push an entire community. So I understand that too, but it is an intentional that we actually do training. We really have to. I don't know how we would. Mr. Pruitt, I mean, Mr. Drinkers, I asked in regards to, do we have to be there? You got to be present to receive those points. And if you don't have to be there, but I do require, how do we have, because to be honest, someone outside, we really need more than one delegation to be at the table. There's a lot of law. And what we have at a bigger magnitude is fight against public education. So we can sit here around, we can disagree on it. It's a bigger fight. Someone else. And I told you right now, probably be the kind of first time to pull it out in regard to it because it's several views and I was going to explain exactly what even presented in the open discussion. There's a couple of things we actually in regards to vouchers. We actually thinking about giving vouchers to charter schools. We're actually even thinking about removing ourselves from getting funding from K through 12 with lottery. So we kind of really, and I don't have any problem with emailing anyone. It was a great training. It really was a great training. I never thought about something of this nature where I can sit down and face to face, have a conversation with executive president, any education from Greenfield. So it's our representatives and senators there that are pushing their areas. That are pushing their areas ideally. I don't think anyone understands the commission of poverty-stricken areas that has these obstacles. We really have a lot of obstacles for the state of that. So we're going to, I know I get a little long with training. We really need to sit at the table. I don't think we need to show the state that we're going to pull away from the training. So we could, we kind of need to figure out something with it. Kind of need one or maybe a backup to go. We never don't need to pull away from the training. And I just want to thank everyone. If you haven't been to the delegation, you need to go.
Yeah.
I didn't even think that the House Representatives, senators would be.
So I want to elaborate on what Mr. McCray is talking about because I had written down a few key points to bring back to the board from that, if I can, Lavander. He was our delegate and I was just our backup, but we were able to discuss the fact that they were talking about giving money to charter schools and vouchers for private education from public education money. And so they would also talk about school resource officers in our schools and how those are funded and how underprivileged or under financially stricken communities like ours would pay for those if they were not already covered and we had already hired them, that kind of thing. There was resolutions that were being voted on and passed. One of them I want to read because it was the biggest topic of discussion when it came to voting, and it directly affects to our school board. So it was Resolution 22. It says South Carolina School Boards Association believes in opposing the takeover of schools, school districts, and locally raised revenues and opposing legislative efforts to remove, diminish, or interfere with the authority of local governing school district boards. Now, there was an amendment made to that resolution, but this resolution did pass. And while this is not a law, it does say to our legislators what we as a state and our boards feel. And I just wanted to bring that back to our board, because that one I feel like is more pertinent to us right now. And I think it is important that if we do away with travel as much, that the delegate assembly should definitely not be one of the ones that we skip out on.
Again, I know we need to save money. It's 7, 8, 9 different board retreats or board meetings. Travel goes up. If we limit it down from 7 and 8 to 1 or 2, we've saved money. And the annual and the delegate assembly are the two that we definitely do not need to eliminate. And we, as a board, have the right to do that. I mean, if we're going to save money, we're going to still save $1,000. Not we're going to spend it. We have a budget, and we're going to go below that budget to do it, to make that accommodation. We're willing to sacrifice the other board meetings to go. I think those are the two that we need to go to. I don't need to go anymore because I'm at the end of my rope. So, you know, I'm done in December. But I know that you guys need to go, because I'm at level 5. There's only 6 levels. I don't need level 6. I'm going home. So
I wanted to
you
say
guys need to
something
go.
about that also. I can appreciate, and I really appreciate our board for sending me and Lavander, because it was the first time we were afforded the opportunity to go. I think somebody new from the board should go every year to the delegate assembly, because before this year, I had no idea what this was even about. We've never even talked about it. So I appreciate y'all allowing us to go.
Okay, all right. Well, then, we can talk about this at another time. We got enough out on that.
Completing the finance report, on page 2, you'll see some capital projects that need our attention right now. We did allocate $90,000 to get the CTE wing in this building cleaned. If you remember, we had to abandon that wing because there was some mold in that area. But we really need to get junior ROTC, the weight room, the agriculture program, and I think there's a dance room that kind of doubles as a wrestling room after school. We need to get those spaces open back up. So we've cut a PO for that. The contractor's supposed to come in. It's going to be after Christmas before they can get here, but we're going to proceed with that expenditure because we've got to get that space
You got the
open
cost
back
on
up.
that?
It's imperative for the high school. We've got I put a couple of pictures in there. We've got a couple of issues out at Wallace. One of the recent heavy rains created a leak in kind of in the lobby area where there's a raised roof, some windows up in the top up there. We got some water in, so we've got a contractor that's going to address that. We got a sinkhole in the front. That's what that picture is from. And we're going to have to get that addressed before it gets worse. And then I learned something about the property. So Wallace has I think it's on septic, not sewer. And we pump to a drain field that's not even on the school site. It's like not quite a half a mile, but it's down the road, and it's highlighted it there in yellow on that map. So that's a drain field, and it's starting to get grown up. It's got trees that are probably 5 to 10 feet tall on them. No real big trees, but before it gets grown up and the roots get in all the drain fields and things like that, we need to get that clear cut. So we're working with some contractors on those things. And a couple other leaks. There were a couple of leaks in this building, I think, just in the last week that we've got to look at. So just some facilities issues I wanted you to be aware of, and feel free to ask any questions about those. And then the last 4 pages of the finance report are just the typical revenue and expenditure budgets. And you can see the big blank space for the revenue is the one we'll get when we get the local taxes in January. But we don't have that yet, so we're still a little bit behind. But expenditures are trending fairly positive. You'll see the ideal percent remaining at the top. And any number that's higher than that means we haven't spent what we would have expected to spend at this time. And so if a number's higher than that ideal percent remaining, that means we're doing well.
Okay.
So you'll see several of the larger accounts show a little bit more than what we would expect to have at this time, which means that hopefully it means that we'll be seeing some improvement in our expenditure budget this year. So Nothing really remarkable in the finance report. I think it's kind of where we would expect to be at this point.
Okay, with the capital, expenditure report and with our capital project and capital fund, do we have an excess? Do you know about the amount we have in our capital
So
fund?
that is not something I've been able to gather at this time.
Okay.
What I would like to do is have a budget for you every week on that, or every month, every meeting, where we could show you exactly what we have. I just haven't, with Ms. Grant, being out some and me just dealing with a lot of things right now. I've learned so much in the last 3 weeks, but I've just not had a chance to get everything where I want it. I do want that to become a regular part of the budget update for the board. I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, I think that'll be good because, in reference to what, Dr. McLeod was talking about with the audit and stuff like that.
Sure.
So we know what's going on with the
No
capital
question.
fund.
I've got
That's normally where something.
no concerns with that, and
Yeah,
I think
sure.
you should have access to that. That's why I tried to give you some information about upcoming expenditures that we will be making, just to keep our schools in good shape. But I don't have a full accounting of that fund yet.
Dr. Thorson, I have two questions. So I see that the estimated times to start in January. Did they give a completion date?
I think, Mr. McNeil, they're estimating 2 weeks, correct? 2 weeks. So once they come and get on site, it'll be a 2-week duration. So we're hopeful that maybe by the end of January, we can be in those spaces. It'll just depend on when they get here after Christmas.
And so also for the culinary arts program that's in that area, will they move back down there or will they stay?
That's a larger issue. We have had some residential ovens here, but you're not allowed to use a cooktop without an industrial hood in a school. We do not have industrial hoods in this building. And to get them, we have a plan to get them, but it's about $2 million. So it's going to be a little while before we're able to have a kitchen for our students in the culinary program in this building. So the kind of Band-Aid situation that we're working on right now is the old kitchen at BIS, not the new one that was constructed, but the old kitchen at BIS. Still has equipment in there. Mr. McNeil has been working with a contractor to get that cleaned and in good shape. And that does still have the hood. I mean, it's a little bit older, but it still meets requirements that are necessary for students to cook in there. So our plan is that second semester, we would take our culinary students over to the old cafeteria kitchen area at BIS so that they could get the instruction they need to complete their course of study.
So this summer we went over to Northeastern.
Yes.
I was about to ask the same
We
thing.
went over to Northeastern, and Northeastern was talking about a culinary department they were going to do, and it was going to be available for our high school program. Have you been in contact with anyone over there? I know they're dealing with their own issues now, but
they are dealing with some of their own issues. My understanding is that they do not have any type of culinary classroom there that would support our students. And I don't know their timetable for getting that. If they did have a kitchen there that was vented properly and our students could use, we would certainly be open to that, but it doesn't exist right now that I'm aware of.
And to add to that, what is going to happen? I don't know exactly what kind of agreement we have with Northeastern. What's the status of that whole thing with us trying to get our kids back over here?
So I hope to be able to give you a report on that, a little bit more information anyway in January. I've not been in contact with anyone in their administration to this point. They do have an interim president, and I've asked to get a meeting with her just so we could try to finalize an agreement. There is a memorandum of understanding. It's not been signed at this point. And I've been working with Mr. Graham and Mr. McNeil, several folks, Dr. Brown, Mr. Davis has been involved. we are actually looking at pulling some of those classes back from the NETC campus back to here, because there's several issues over there. One is just the facility and the lack of an agreement at this point. But the biggest problem is on a 90-minute schedule when we're busing students from here to there and then back here, they're really getting, Mr. Graham, what would you say, probably 60 minutes of instruction in a 90-minute period? So it's taking about 15 minutes on the front side and 15 minutes on the back side. So the students aren't getting the class time that they need. And that's adding to our expenses too, because the state's allowing us to use state buses, but we pay the drivers for all that extra time. They're shuttling students back and forth every day. We need to get the students in an environment where they're not losing class time and it's not costing us extra money. And I think we do have a plan that Mr. Graham's going to work on for next year, so that those career classes would be double blocked, and you'd go over for first and second period. So you'd go over in the morning, you come back at lunch, and then have 2 classes here in the afternoon, or vice versa, stay here and then go there. But right now we're on a 90-minute schedule where we're running buses every period, first period, second period, third period, fourth period. And it's just, it's not working as efficiently as it needs to for both getting students the class time they need and the extra cost, and just the logistics involved for us have been difficult.
Good. All right, thanks for the update, Dr. Thorson.
Sir.
At this time, we'll have a motion during the executive session to discuss. Did I skip on something? Somebody say something?
Think we have to vote on the financial report?
No.
We don't? Okay, just for information.
Information, yes.
Yep. Discuss, executive session, discuss personnel matters and consideration of an employee appeal.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters and consideration of employee appeal.
Have a motion? Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, let it know on raising your right hand. Okay. We're now in executive session.
And I don't know what to do with last 3 weeks, I've been involved 4 out of 5 days with some doctor's office.
All right, back.
I'm gonna listen to it.
Need a motion to go back in open session?
Mr. Chair,
Sir,
before we go back in open session,
have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. We are now back in open session. In executive session, no action was taken, no decisions were made. Mr. Driggers?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve certified resignations and the certified recommendation that was given to us by Superintendent Thorson.
Motion to accept the certified recommendations and the
Certified recommendation.
and the certified recommendations by Dr. Thorson.
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing any, all in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Recommendations are approved. Now I need a vote on hearing the appeal decision. Do I have a motion on the appeal?
Mr. Chair, I move that the board consider employee appeal.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to listen to the appeal. Okay. Any discussion? Here isn't any. All in favor of listening to the appeal, let it be known by raising your right hand. 2. All opposed? Okay. So, is that 63? 5 to 3,
abstain.
and 1 abstain. Mr. Galloway abstained. Okay, need to set a date. Do need to do it quickly because we have a classroom need to be filled in by Wednesday. Wednesday, good.
Wednesday will be good.
Okay, Wednesday afternoon, 5, 6 o'clock. What's best for y'all?
Can we do it after the luncheon?
Everybody coming to the luncheon on Wednesday?
Time,
11 to 1?
11 to 1.
Yes,
Just
sir.
do it that afternoon, because I'll be heading to work after.
Lunch, you gonna do it the afternoon? 5 or 6?
5 is good for me.
5 o'clock p.m. Wednesday. Good, everybody? Okay. We got appeal on Wednesday. All right. Any other action, Mr. Driggers?
I make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we adjourn this meeting then.
Motion to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, let it be known. Do I have a second first?
Second.
All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Meeting is now adjourned.